First, I want to thank Senator Ron Johnson and Congressman Byron Donalds for being here. This is ridiculous what's going on. This is the third time in my life I've been targeted by the executive branch. The latest is Jack Smith, all right? So he, I don't know why, but it was an attack against me, an attack against Ron, and a bunch of others, but really it was an attack against the Republican Party. Their goal was to destroy the Republican Party. So this is my third time. During the Biden administration, they stole my tax records and disclosed them to ProPublica. Anything happened to ProPublica? Absolutely not. The Biden administration did nothing to them. I led the effort to fight against Hillary back under the Clinton administration. So as a result, I got the Clinton DOJ to investigate my company. So this has to stop. So a business person can be targeted, a senator can be targeted. Who cannot be targeted, right? So I want to thank Senator Johnson, Senator Grassley for all their hard work. I want to thank Jim Jordan over in the House for their hard work. We have got to get to the bottom of this. This has got to stop. I want to thank Congressman Byron Donalds he's calling on Judge Boasberg to be impeached. I agree. This guy's got to be out of office. This is ridiculous what's going on. So I've written a letter to Pam Bondi. I want an investigation by the DOJ. We have met, and I'm going to be asking for more information from Verizon. Why was Verizon okay of spying on members of Congress, but AT&T didn't do it? Why didn't they think about whether they should do this? Why didn't they think about this rather than just go forward, give my text, my voicemail, bank information, all that stuff? So this has to stop. I want to thank everybody that's involved in doing and getting to the bottom of this. This has to stop. These people need to be brought to justice. Whatever they shouldn't be Judge Boyce shouldn't have the power of a judge. He should be impeached or he should resign. And Jack Smith, we've got to find out exactly what happened, and if appropriate, he needs to be indicted. So let me turn over to Senator Johnson.
Well, thank you, Senator Scott and Congressman Donald. I've got 3 points to make. First, I want to talk about how Senator Scott found out that he was targeted by Jack Smith, and let's call it what it is, a dragnet. We continue to get and actually appreciate the fact that Verizon now is providing us information. So just yesterday we got a number of additional subpoenas targeting a number of different phone numbers. That's what's kind of different about this is when we were notified, the first 9 members targeted by Jack Smith, that we were notified by the FBI, we had our names. The subpoenas we're getting right now are just phone numbers. I call Rick Scott a fair amount, so I recognize his phone number, and that's why he was notified so quickly. We're right now trying to track down the phone numbers of the additional subpoenas we received yesterday, so stay tuned. There'll be more announcements made. We want to do that in conjunction with the individuals that we're targeting. But that's the other point I want to really emphasize. I know people call this a fishing expedition. I don't disagree with this as a partisan fishing expedition trying to dig up some wrongdoing on the part of Republicans. It's far worse than that. This is a massive partisan dragnet. It was designed to provide information for their lawfare scheme to literally cripple their political opposition, the Republican Party. That's what this is all about. This is a scandal far more egregious than anything that Watergate ever was. People need to understand that. Second point I want to make, we're getting information from Verizon. We're getting information from whistleblowers. We're getting some information from the Department of Justice. And so I want to encourage more whistleblowers. I want to encourage and thank Verizon for providing us the information they're providing. Be completely transparent, but we need more whistleblowers inside these agencies, across government, that have integrity, that want to see credibility and integrity restored to their own agencies and departments. We need more whistleblowers because the deep state remains. There are people burrowed in, doing everything they can to sabotage the second Trump administration as they attempted to sabotage the first. The third point I want to make is I've got a great deal of sympathy for Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino. These are people that are aggressively trying to get control of their agencies, but because of the deep state, because of the fact that they had to, a lot of partisans quit, they had to terminate a number of them, they're unable to replace them because of the lawfare. lawfare against honorable people like Judge Troops in Wisconsin, who they're trying to destroy him because he simply represented the President of the United States in his election challenge. So it's effective on the part of the left. That's why they're doing it. And as Rick Scott mentioned, this isn't a one-off. This has been their game plan literally for decades, to use lawfare, to use the court system deviously to destroy their political opponents. It has to end, and the only way it ends is if it's totally exposed, and that's certainly what I'm dedicated to do here. Congressman Ryan.
Well, first of all, let's get to the point on this. Operation Arctic Frost and everything that's occurred under it. It was a scheme to investigate, to basically sideline, to suppress, to diminish Republican senators and other Republicans in our country. And the reason why they sought to do this is because they want to maintain political control over Washington, D.C. When I say they, I mean the Democrat Party. This is outrageous that you've had Senator Scott and other United States senators have their records subpoenaed by Jack Smith, somebody who was brought into the Department of Justice by Merrick Garland and by Joe Biden. And if you notice, my question is, where's Chuck Schumer? Where's Hakeem Jeffries? Where are prominent Senate Democrats saying this is outrageous, saying there needs to be a full investigation? If the American people are paying attention, they're not saying a word. But they'll be at a No Kings rally, and they'll talk about how there are no kings in the United States, even though the United States defeated kings 250 years ago. They won't talk about that. But they'll be quick to be quiet when their colleagues in the United States Senate are having their records and their phones subpoenaed. They're having their records subpoenaed. They're having their phones tapped. They're having their offices tapped. They won't say a word about that. And I think it's important for the American people to understand. The reason they won't say a word is because this is a chilling effect on what the debates in this country are supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about public policy in the United States of America. And because they do not have a coherent political or policy argument about what's in the best interest of the American people, they are perfectly okay with using deep state actors to investigate their political rivals. It is un-American. And just specifically to Judge Boasberg. Judge Boasberg, who was entrusted to sit on the bench, to be impartial and to be non-political, and to basically review cases in front of him and determine the constitutionality and the legality of the claims in front of him, he is taking it on his own to be a hyper-partisan judge going after Republicans, signing off on subpoenas that are unlawful. And he signed off on them just to get his political rivals. This is why he needs to be impeached. I commend Congressman Brandon Gill of Texas for leading this effort in the House to call for articles of impeachment of Judge Boasberg. And it'd be interesting to see what Minority Leader Schumer has to say about all this. Because if it's okay for a federal judge to sign off on subpoenas and warrants against Republicans in the United States Senate simply because they're going through not just fishing, like Senator Johnson said, this is not a fishing expedition. This was entrapment. This was trying to bury and to suppress your political rivals, all to maintain power in Washington, D.C. And I'll stress again, our Democratic colleagues, they want to talk about health care costs. Well, here are the facts. Their health care policy has led to premiums skyrocketing through the United States, deductibles skyrocketing through the United States. They have no policy answer. So instead of actually addressing the issues of the American people, what are they doing? They're using deep state actors like a Jack Smith, like a Judge Boasberg, to spy and to suppress the political abilities of Republican senators. This is outrageous. This is way bigger than Watergate. Way bigger than Watergate. And I want to hear what Senate Democrats have to say. I want to hear what House Democrats have to say. Because, to be blunt, if the shoe was on the other foot, oh, trust me, they will be on every media show, they will be in every hallway of this Capitol, talking about how there need to be investigations, talking about people need to be impeached. And so now that, because they're not the target of this stuff, nobody's targeting them, but you have Rick Scott being targeted, you have Ted Cruz being targeted, you have many people, Jim Jordan been targeted, my colleague Scott Perry in the House, he's been targeted, and because it's Republicans being targeted, they have nothing to say. Democrats need to speak up. Do they want a country where there is free and open debate? Do they want a country that's for the people and of the people? Do they want a country where the law is blind? Or do they want a country where rogue judges and rogue prosecutors are targeting political rivals? This is insane. They need to step up and speak against this. Judge Boasberg needs to go. There needs to be far more investigations to root out this corruption in the United States government.
We can answer any questions anybody has. Yes.
Thanks, Senator. Actually, a question for Congressman Donalds. You mentioned the push for impeachment. What do you anticipate this, potential impeachment of Judge Boasberg looking like in the House? Would this be sort of a privileged resolution that goes to the floor and get a vote, or do you think that would have some committee process hearings, markup similar to what we saw with State Mayorkas under the last Congress?
I haven't talked with Congressman Gill in a couple of days, so I'll leave that to him. He needs to answer that one because he's pushing that resolution. As I understand it, he wants to make sure that it gets to the floor quickly. It might be privileged, but I'll actually leave that one to Congressman Gill. But he's been at this for a while. He has been observing and watching the actions of Judge Boasberg. This is not something new. He's been actually trying to pursue this for several months. And then when Operation Arctic Frost was made known to everybody, it actually only redoubled his efforts. And so I'm really thankful for his leadership on this issue. And the process in the House, I'll leave that to him and Speaker Johnson, but it needs to occur. It needs to occur this year.
Let me inadvisably say something about what the House ought to do here. The impeachment hearing would be extremely important. We bring it over here into the Senate, and we know the Democrats will not vote to convict. Now, we can hold a trial. I'm not sure you do that on the floor of the Senate or just in a committee. But a House impeachment hearing or hearings would be extremely important, because the most important thing here is not necessarily the verdict. The most important thing is exposing exactly what happened, and a House hearing and Senate hearings would be a really good way of doing that.
Jacob Ogles, Florida Politics. The way this was described, your phone number was showing up in other records. When you say that you were targeted, and this is Senator Rickstock, when you say you were targeted by the DOJ or the executive branch, were they pursuing your records, or were they pursuing other records and your phone number just showed up?
They pursued in my records, and they asked for I to give them information on text, voicemail, how I paid my bills, all sorts of things like that. And this is the third time. So they tried to shut me up as a business guy. Then they tried to embarrass me with my tax returns, and then this.
Let me also clarify. It's not that Senator Scott's telephone number showed up in a bunch of other places. Okay, no, his telephone number was on the subpoena. That's how they issued the subpoena. They didn't name him. They just issued a subpoena with I think in his case there were 9 or 10 different phone numbers. Again, we're trying to track down. We got a number of subpoenas yesterday with more phone numbers we're trying to track down. Some of these are already phone numbers that are no longer in service, so it's a little difficult to do that. But again, it was just that the subpoena listed his phone number. It wasn't like his phone number was associated with any kind of wrongdoing whatsoever.
Do you believe they were seeking charges or trying to pursue some sort of action against you?
We don't know.
Again, as this information's coming in, that's what I said, it looks way more not just a fishing expedition, but literally a dragnet. I think Jack Smith probably ran out of time, but I think he was looking to indict all kinds of people. Again, what they were criminalizing, what they're attempting to criminalize, what they've actually charged Judge Troupas with felony, is exactly what JFK did in Hawaii. They had an alternate slate of electors. When JFK prevailed in Hawaii, that alternate slate of electors was able to vote for him for president. Al Gore's attorneys, stupidly, didn't have alternate slate of electors, so when the case went to the Supreme Court, no matter what the merit of his case, there was no alternate slate of electors, so everybody learned from that. Certainly Judge Troupas learned about that as an advocate for President Trump in Wisconsin, so he appointed an alternate slate of electors. Wisconsin's Attorney General office said that was totally proper. And now after making that opinion, now the Attorney General of Wisconsin, Josh Krall, is charged Judge Troupas with felonies. Wants to put him away for life. He's probably run up millions of dollars, or at least $1 million worth of legal fees. They're just destroying him. The process is the punishment. Again, and that's quite honestly what is chilling Pam Bondi and Kash Patel's ability to attract people into their departments. Is it worth serving 3 years and have your being targeted in the future by Democrats' lawfare. Again, this is awful. This is sick what the Democrats are doing.
Basically, they want to shut us all up. They want to shut us up and put us in prison. That's what they want to do. Yes.
Can you lay out what kind of timeline you're looking at here for when you want to get certain information done or when you want to get answers to?
A lot depends on really what Pam Bondi and Kash Patel do. Again, they want to preserve a criminal case. I understand that. I want to make sure that the criminals get prosecuted and convicted as well. But to me, the greatest imperative is getting all this information out in the public as quickly as possible. I think they can do that without spoiling their case. I'm not an attorney, I'm not a prosecutor, so I'm not expert at that. But to me, the number one thing that has to be done is exposure. I think they've been investigating this quite some time. I think they're dramatically understaffed for the reasons I stated in the department. I think there's a lot of hang-ups in terms of what information they've determined, whether it has to be cleared, has to be vetted. They don't have the personnel to do that. So they're going to have to staff up. And that's one of the reasons when I was here in a press conference last week with the Judiciary Committee, I called on the members of the Senate Judiciary Committee to do everything they can to help those departments staff up. I mean, they know lawyers, they know people, encourage people to, come and work in the Trump administration. We need you. This is a call to duty. If you're a patriot and you love this country and you want to see integrity and credibility restored to the Justice Department and the FBI, you need to serve. We truly need people to serve in these departments so that we can uncover this, expose it, and prevent it from happening in the future.
Real quick, let me answer this. What we're witnessing is not politics as usual. This is not. This is a cancer to the very core of the republic. You have a Democrat Party who on purpose have weaponized the judicial process. They have weaponized the Department of Justice against their political rivals. Obviously, the target was President Trump. And so what they did is they expanded the scope on purpose with no evidence, no facts, no plausible, no possibility of fact. And they expanded it on purpose, trying to entrap United States senators for the purpose not of just convictions, but for the purpose of suppressing their ability to represent Republicans in the United States of America. That's insanity, but that's what they did. And listen, Senator Johnson's right. It is hard for people in the legal profession to decide to come into this administration because what's happening in bar associations all across America is that if you decide that you want to come in and work here, or I'll bring up another case that people don't want to talk about, but it's true. You have lawyers in America who were trying to represent January 6 detainees, and they were being blackballed by the legal community. That is a fact. They were being blackballed by the legal community from representing those individuals by Democrat attorneys in the bar associations all across America. This is a cancer to the core of the republic. And that's why Senator Johnson and Senator Scott, they need to have answers immediately. We understand what needs to happen at the Department of Justice, and we respect that process, but the American people need to know clearly and unequivocally that the Democrats don't care about the normal operations and the normal give and take of politics. They don't care about that. What they care about is full political control. And if you don't go along with their agenda, then they're going to find a way to investigate you. And the process, to Senator Johnson's point, the process is the punishment. You have people who've been ground into the dust financially because they didn't go along with the Democrats. It's disgusting, and it's got to stop, and that's why this has to be exposed.
Yes.
Two-parter. First off, you characterize this as a dragnet. From the skins I've read, from my understanding, they're mostly for like a 4-day period, I believe the 3rd through the 7th of January 2020.
That's what I've seen so far online.
No. Okay. No, the subpoenas we're getting in now are far broader than that.
Okay.
The 4-day period was for the initial 9 members of Congress that the FBI made us aware of. The subpoenas coming in now are very broad. They're for a much longer period of time. They're for many more records. So that's why I say this is way more than a fishing expedition. It truly is a massive partisan dragnet. They're just trying to scoop it all up, again, for the purpose of trying to cripple their political opposition.
Well, they
That's
just
what
want
it's
to
all
destroy lives. I mean,
They don't care about destroying lives. It's, you know, somebody like Judge Troop is an honorable man. Probably the best election attorney in Wisconsin. It was great that he was willing to serve the President of the United States. They are literally destroying him, but they don't care. They couldn't care less.
they have and by the way, just remember what they have. They have unlimited resources. So if you're a private citizen, you don't have unlimited resources. Right? So their goal is to destroy you, and financially they're going to destroy you. You don't have the resources to fight the federal government. So if you're in business, you don't go along with them, they'll go after you. If you're a U.S. senator, you don't go along with them, they'll go after you. This has to stop. I mean, whether like in my case, 3 times. They stole my tax returns, they went after me because I went after Hillary Care and this. Everybody has to understand, they can go after you. I mean, at the time, I ran one of the biggest companies in the country, and they went after me. And now I'm a U.S. senator. I mean, wouldn't you think a U.S. senator would never be attacked by the federal government? This is crazy.
For the individuals who weren't lawmakers, how long were some of those subpoenas?
Okay, we'll be making that public. Okay, again, we're trying to identify the numbers now. We're trying to contact people as best we can. But I want to do that in conjunction with Senator Grassley, who's been my partner in all these investigations.
So you expect there will be more information beyond what you guys?
There's more information we have not yet released. I'm telling you, there will be more to come, so stay tuned. And I'm hoping that if there's more information to come, that Verizon will continue to produce documents. And then hopefully the Justice Department as well, and whistleblowers.
And then the second part of the question is, obviously this is with regards to, as you said, the alternate electors. Do you guys at this point in 2025 believe that the election in 2020 was improperly stolen from President Trump?
There were indisputable irregularities in the 2020 election. In Wisconsin, there were a host of them. The lawsuit was a legitimate lawsuit that the Supreme Court of Wisconsin just basically dismissed what they call cloacal latches. They didn't look at the evidence, and that happened time and time again. Everybody said, the courts looked at this and dismissed it. No, courts basically looked at these cases and dismissed the cases without ever looking at the evidence. So yeah, there were all kinds of irregularities. We doubled the number of absentee ballots. The Baker-Carter Commission warned us that absentee ballots are probably the greatest potential for fraud, and we doubled them during COVID. So yeah, I mean, the irregularities are undeniable. To the extent that it impacted the election, that's what you really can't, with any definitive answer, say.
But real quick, to the point of your question, yes, and Senator Johnson is right. There were many irregularities in 2020 that have been documented. The courts did not look at the evidence. They dismissed the case. That is a fact. But let's talk about this in a broader concept. Each one of us has run for political office in America. The candidate, in this instance, President Trump, is allowed to contest the election. That is a legal right of any candidate in America. But the Democrats didn't want that. Let's remember the entire premise of this thing. You're allowed to contest the results of an election if you're the candidate in that election. That is your legal right and ability to do so, which should be protected. But the Democrats didn't want that. They wanted everybody to move on. They wanted no examination of it. They wanted no ability to question it. And let's take a further step back. And what did they do with the results of the 2020 election? They put in a president of the United States who had no mental capability to do the job. And then lied to the American, they lied to you, the press. They lied to you guys, time and time again. Oh no, Joe Biden's fine, everything's okay. You didn't see the man for 6 months, 8 months, 10 months. He wasn't holding cabinet meetings. He would come out, have 3 cards, and when he was done, they would usher him back off stage. It is one of the greatest affronts to our constitutional republic, a chief executive who was put into place who did not have the capabilities to do his job. You guys in the press watched it. We watched it here on Capitol Hill. But you want to talk about 2025? There were irregularities. President Trump was well within his rights to question that. And he did, obviously. But that doesn't warrant a massive investigation. That does not warrant Jack Smith, a rogue prosecutor who, by the way, this is not the first time Jack Smith has done something like this. Go talk to former Governor Bob McDonnell of Virginia, because he did it to Bob McDonnell too. And they turned that guy loose. Judge Boasberg was a part of it. Why? To go after their political rivals. And in my full, now 5 years later, to protect the ineptitude and the radicalism of Joe Biden's presidency. We don't even know if he was mentally with us the last 2 years. We don't know. You have his wife's right hand, Anthony Bernal, pleading the fifth in House depositions. You have his doctor pleading the fifth in House depositions. I was present for both of those. He's pleading the fifth. Does not want to answer the American people to the mental capabilities of President Biden. But when this issue comes up about the weaponization, which did occur, of the Department of Justice, going after their political rivals for the purposes of trying to win elections and maintain power, that's your story. Not whether President Trump challenged the results of the 2020 election, which, to be blunt, he had every right to do, and there were major irregularities in that election.
Which my opponent did in 2018, and I went through three recounts.
You
And
did? I was there.
everybody said that was okay.
Yeah, I was there, sure.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I remember the recounts, it's crazy.